Hey, welcome. Good evening, everyone, to our school board meeting that we're resuming from Tuesday. And so before we start, we'd like to do roll call. We'll start with Trustee Chris.
Present.
Trustee Martinez.
Present.
Trustee Tosti.
Here.
Trustee Mark.
Here.
And Trustee Torres de Luna here. And if Trustee Mark could lead us in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And next on our agenda, we have staff and student recognition.
So welcome everybody. We tonight have a very special video to debut to our public and to our community. It has been quite an interesting year, has it not? I want to take this opportunity to thank our staff. We have teachers that have not only balanced their personal lives, their commitments at home throughout this 2-year period of COVID, but also the heavy workload that they have in the classroom, the heavy workload that they have right now due to independent study. And yet they come back every day and they care for our students and they love on our students and they help our students grow. We have classified staff that are working outside of their parameters. We have, in this video, I want to really showcase the fact that we have a custodian who on his own is leading stretches with students at an elementary school above and beyond the call of duty. We have student nutrition staff that have been just relentless in their approach to the work. They've worked throughout the days where COVID was absolutely scary, and they have fed our community. We have paras, we have, I could go on and on, health clerks, school nurses, principals who are being health clerks, who are being substitute teachers, who are being secretaries. We have IT staff. The list is endless, but despite it all, our students are thriving. Our students are laughing. Our students are eating nutritious meals at school. Our students are learning despite it all. In this environment of criticism of the school system, in this environment of a lot of emotion tied to the school system, in this environment of skepticism of the school system, I would like to challenge our community, anybody watching this video, to please demonstrate grace and kindness to our staff, to our teachers, to our classified staff, to our administrators, to our nurses who are at the front lines of educating the children. Our job is to educate the children, but sometimes it gets lost among all the other things. I want to really just inspire and challenge our community. And if you have a neighbor that works in education, thank them. If you have a neighbor that's a teacher, thank them. If you have a neighbor that's a custodian, a secretary, an administrator, thank them. If you have a neighbor that's a nurse, thank them. It will go a long way. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Brandon. And I'd like to thank Brandon because he helped put this together. And we are going to showcase our video. It's called HSD Students Learning, Laughing, Loving Through It All. our staff. There's more than 600 of you. Thank you for what you do every day for our students. You are absolutely appreciated.
Thank you, Superintendent Sanchez. That was very well said. And I wonder, because not all of our staff see the school board meetings, if there's a way to crop what you said and send it to everybody, because I think everyone needs to hear how you said it, what you said. So, yeah, that was beautiful. With that, moving along, we had a closed session on Tuesday, and we do have one thing to report out. And I'll go ahead and read that. The board took action by a unanimous vote of all trustees present to accept the resignation agreement of a district administrator. That was from closed session. And then, are we ready to, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight, January 20th,
Do we have a second?
2022. I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? No. Okay. And we're moving on to public comments, and I think everyone was informed, if you have a public comment, there should be speaker cards at the back. No? Okay. Okay. And then once you complete one, okay, no problem.
But we need to get the cards.
We'll call you up.
We'll
You
call
can,
you up, so we'll get the cards and then we'll call you up.
You can get a speaker card.
She
filled
filled
one
it
out.
out.
Okay.
She just left it back.
Okay. And so before, while we figure out who wants to speak, then Trustee Marks will read a little bit about public comment.
Yeah, you complete a speaker's card, you present the card to the board clerk, so that basket will end up coming up here. And then we will call upon you by name to come up to the podium and speak. You will have 3 minutes to address the board on each item. And we are limiting the total time for public input on each item to 15 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. So, with that. Brian, Jesse, Peachy? Oh, yes,
Do you
right.
need me to state my name first, or?
Yes, your name and what school or what area you're from.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Feachy. I'm a parent of 3 children at Lad Lane. So I'm here because I'm motivated to speak tonight as a result of Tuesday's events. Over the last several weeks, 2 of my children were placed on mandatory quarantine. And initially, I thought it was overkill, the whole 10 days. And just simply, I'll be honest, I thought it was inconvenient. Soon after, I realized that I would rather have my kids home for the extra days just for nothing, rather than have them home with children. So I do, in the end, I want to express thanks and gratitude, because who knows, you might have prevented them from being further infected in the classrooms. So it hasn't been easy for me. You know, my suggestion is one of the reasons why I'm here tonight is just to simply suggest that I understand the quarantine to stop the spread, but maybe consider, maybe when things get a little bit better, to like on day 5, initially quarantine, on day 5, they test to return. So something like that. The other issue I would like to quickly address is the increasing divisiveness in the community. You know, we've made a lot of progress in schools, in COVID in schools compared to where we were a year ago. We have vaccines available for anyone who wants one. You know, our schools are open. We have a plan in place, even though I don't really like it, to keep outbreaks from spreading, right? We have at-home test kits available. N95 masks, I believe, are being given out to the students. I hope I read that correctly. I know one of the concerns was like these kind of masks may not be as effective. Hopefully, you know, maybe if all the kids, we get most kids wearing it, that'll help in the effectiveness in slowing the spread of COVID. Let's see. Schools are also addressing the social and emotional needs of students. However, I have come to the realization that parents might need to be included more in the process to be a part of it. I hope the district will focus on improving its communication with the parent community. I think our families would benefit from a discussion forum where parents can respectfully share concerns on COVID and ask questions to administration and maybe even local health officials. Parents are concerned for their child's well-being on both sides of the pandemic. When parents are included in the process, they're less likely to feel that they have to suddenly stand up for their children. Whether we are pro-mask or anti-mask, I would really like to believe there is common ground to start from. After all, I know we're all tired of this pandemic. You know, I'm really sick and tired of it. I would rather, though, work towards a win-win scenario that models to our children that this is how adults resolve disagreements instead of just trying to outshout one another. So I know my time is up, but thank you. You know, I'd be happy to further email just some suggestions for this. And just thank you for taking action during these difficult times.
Anita Seringhouse.
Good evening. My name is Anita Seringhouse. I'm one of the nurses for Hollister School District, and two of my kids came through the district as well. We are certainly living in extraordinary times. The last few weeks have felt like a tsunami. We have had an unprecedented number of positive cases in the last month. Students, parents, and staff are concerned, confused, and questioning the ever-changing guidance. School and our normal routines have been interrupted by the surge, to say the least. Yet through all this, I can honestly say I've never been more proud to work at Hollister School District. We have the most dedicated staff whose number one priority is and always will be our students. Teachers are at the forefront of the work. They continue to teach in person daily despite ongoing exposure. They are in constant communication with families about their students' work and their well-being. They spend hours putting together truckloads of work for the hundreds of students who have chosen independent study. Their classroom aides and paras are working to assist teachers in creating a school environment, as you could tell by the video, that feels as normal as possible and gives children a much-needed sense of security. Our office staff are managing a flood of calls while creating independent study contracts and assisting in documenting COVID cases. The health clerks are triaging students with mental and physical health concerns, managing students who are ill, deciding who should be sent home, and documenting COVID cases, all while doing their regular job, which is a heavy load to bear in and of itself. School administrators are subbing in classes and doing any job that needs to be done to keep the sites functioning well during this time. You know you work in a special place when you come to the district office and the parking lot is empty because every single staff member is at a school site helping in any area needed. Unprecedented times call for incredible teamwork, and we have it in spades. Even in this difficult time, there is so much that is going well. Currently, parents have a choice between independent study and in-person learning. This allows parents to choose the option that works best for them and their family. With regards to COVID, the good news is that we have seen cases drop consistently over the last 2 weeks. A parent encouraged me last week that the wave is cresting, and from the numbers that we've seen this week, I believe it is true. I want to remind the board that before Christmas, COVID presented fewer disruptions to our students' education, and once this wave has passed, we will once again be back to our new normal. We need only be patient. We do expect the numbers to continue to decline, and will continue to do what Hollister School District does best. Teach, train, educate, and mentor our students. We'll lead by example and show them what resiliency looks like. I'll end by a quote from a hero of mine, Mr. Fred Rogers, who once said that when he was little and he would see scary things in the news, his mom would comfort him by saying, "Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. And at this unique time in our history, that is certainly true for Hollister School District.
Alma Phillips.
On early of 2020, we were asked to give 2 weeks to help to spread the spread of COVID-19. And I was one of them that said, yes, let's do this. I am a person that is being highly involved in the school. And I'm the mom that is always there. I'm the mom that is always helping the PTO. I'm the mom that is being almost 10 years serving in the board of the band boosters. I'm the mom who's always helping there. I'm the mom that kids, after years, they run to me and they hug me because they remember Miss Phillips and how kind and loving she's been through all these years. Having said that, right now I'm the mom who's not happy about the mask because everybody seems to ignore what I've been noticing for the last years, especially since September of this past year, the impact of psychological damage and physical damage that the masks are causing on the children. It's not easy to hear a child telling to you, if my life has to be this way, I don't want to live. That's not the words that a 12-year-old should be saying. A child should not be hospitalized because he's having a nervous breakdown, because anytime she goes to school, she wants to go to school and socialize with her friends. But anytime she goes, she doesn't even get to see their faces. That video was amazing. But there's only one fact. We didn't get to see the smiles of the children. So I'm always here, and I've been trying to address this with Ms. Erica Sanchez, with Crystal Manto. I've been trying. The door were closed, so I've been trying to have this conversation. We are asking for the right to choose. I understand that some parents, they feel safety through the mask, that there's no scientific studies that show that they work. And I respect that. I am a person that respects people who knows me, they know that I am very respectful. So I want to have that conversation of the emotional and physical impact that this is causing on the children. I live that day to day. And I know there's a lot of parents. I know that because you guys hire more counselors because the amount of children going over there will never break down. 1 or 2 counselors can handle that. So I'm here. I want to open the conversation. I know there's a lot of division. I am frustrated. You see those signs? Yeah, it's frustration. I am so frustrated. I don't want to lose the child to this. Early this year, early in 2020, a child committed suicide over this. Can somebody listen? I've been trying. I want to open the door for that conversation. The gentleman say that he wants unity, that I want unity, I want choice, I want to come to a common ground. We cannot keep this division going on. You guys cannot keep ignoring Ms. Carla de Luna. I must say to you, I was very offended last Tuesday when you say, we don't want this circus. Caring for my children is not a laughing matter. And I appreciate the work that people put, the workers, the staff in the schools. They're wonderful people. They took these jobs because they care for children. Let's care for children in every way.
Excuse me if I don't get this name correct, but Tony Apria? Am I getting that right?
Are they outside?
What was the name? I'm sorry.
Tony, either Apria?
Yes.
If you could come to the podium and then state your name and either what area you live in or if you have children at what school they go to.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Tony Avila, and I'm a great-grandfather to a couple of students in the school district. And as a grandfather, I am concerned with the face coverings that they have to wear. Science has proven and shown us that the masks don't protect us from them or them from us. Their immune system is great. And I have also, the facts are showing and the data that's coming up, that we are doing more harm to the children than we are doing good. Their motor skills, anything that a young person is supposed to be seeing today, that we didn't experience this. So it's already being proven. There's a higher rate of different behavioral conditions. Some children are they just look like little zombies. The older the child becomes, the suicide rate is already, we're starting to see some records of the increase on young students and young people's age killing themselves because they're depressed. And I feel that if parents don't speak up and the teachers, I don't know what the adults are afraid of with the children. We get a common cold off of them, and that's about it. They're not super spreaders at all. So if you have any compassion, I'm sure you have the love for the students' well-being. But what I'm saying is the compassion to think of these little minds that are trying to develop, and all we're doing is just putting more fear in their lives. They hear the parents stressing, they go to school, they're stressing. So it's just chaos all over the place for young, impressionable minds. So I'm actually, as a great-grandfather of my children, of my family here, that it's actually so important for the board here to at least listen to the children or allow them to be children. We have that privilege and the opportunity. And we went through many pandemics in the past, and we all survived. So if the parents and anyone that wants to keep their child masked, I think they should. I'm not an anti-masker, I think you can tell, because I want to come in person and speak. But what I'm saying is, the parents that do not want to have their child masked, I think they should have that right to make that decision for them. And okay. Well, thank you for allowing me to speak. Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Kiana Guerrero?
Kiana Guerrero?
She's gonna call in.
She's going to call in? Okay.
I had it on silent.
Sharon?
Sharon, cute.
Okay. How do I get them? So I just. But that was me turning it on. Well,
Well,
she
she's
said
calling
she'd
in.
call in. So, pardon me? How do I turn it on?
Flash, the light would be flash. All right, thank you. You calling?
It's my first time doing this.
She's calling in now.
Okay.
She says it's busy.
Now those are them, right? Was that yours? Is that what it was? Put it on? Can she try one more time? That we should probably check to make sure that she does have the right one. Okay, she's going, I think she said she's on the call, so let's see. And then, okay, how about Michelle, and it starts with the last name of L, that I can't really read. Oh, Michelle, Mickey Luna?
Luna's here? She outside?
Tiana's trying to call.
Okay.
And we're confident she has the right number? Because that could be the issue, thank you.
Can we get some chairs over there if there's some people that want to sit down and have masks? Because Nikki shouldn't be out there standing.
I don't think she was.
$60,06320.
Yeah, we're not, the phone isn't ringing in here. What is it?
It's not working. While we wait, I want to acknowledge the young people here that are, witnessing the school board meeting. Welcome. You know, these are difficult times, but we're really glad to see young people here and learning from the process. Not that we're not young, you're younger.
Can we give her a mask if she come in?
Can we call her?
He's rebooting.
I don't know, where can we ask her if we could call her?
Thank you for your patience.
Tiana doesn't want to speak now. Who's the next one?
Vicky Luna? Is she out there?
Actually, Celeste.
Oh, Celeste.
Celeste.
Okay, she wants to call my cell phone and then I'll put it on the.
That'd be fine.
That's fine.
Okay, Celeste, go ahead. Okay.
If you could.
The bottom of the phone.
You have her on speaker?
Okay. Speaker's on the bottom. There you go.
Yeah.
I'll start her time now.
Okay.
Carla and Board of Trustees, you insisted we wear a mask because those are the rules. You even threatened us by calling law enforcement because we were not following the rules. What if Rosa Parks had just followed the rules? Then she would have never been known for her activism or courage. The civil rights movement in the United States would have never been initiated by Rosa Parks. What about Cesar Chavez? In his efforts to gain better working conditions for the thousands of farm workers who benefited from his movement, even till this day, what if he just went along with the program and just followed the rules? We are part of a community here in San Benito County.
We are a mixed community of mothers, fathers, grandparents of all races. We are also nurses, firefighters, law enforcement officers, spouses of law enforcement officers, and last but not least, single parents and stay-at-home mothers and fathers. Some cannot speak in person because frankly, they have a lot at stake. I have a large following with the same values. We understand there are rules to be followed. We understand that breaking those rules have consequences. I do not consider myself a leader, but I do consider myself a wife, a mother, a sister, and a friend to anyone in my community. We know COVID is real, but we are tired of being told what is best for our children. We as parents know what's best for our children, and we also respect others' choices. If others wish to put a face mask on their child, then so be it. Stop mandating our children to wear a mask just because you are being funded by COVID money. As far as I know, there are children getting sick from COVID-19 and they have been wearing a mask the entire school year. Where is that data? Our local Hollister chapter, where are we? Our local Hollister chapter is called My Child, My Choice. And we are demanding that you give the parents back their rights and give them their choice. You were voted in by the people and you are denying the people their right to speak in person. And you have denied to read my emails during public comment in the past. Stop silencing us. As I mentioned before, 3 of you guys are up for election. And we will make sure that we find someone to run in your place. Thank you, and stop segregating our unvaccinated children.
Okay, thank you, Celeste. Mickey Luna?
Call it.
We don't have a phone.
Brandon's working on it.
Okay. I feel like for real, that's my first time doing this and I'm having everything happen.
Can you let Aaron know the phone should be working now?
No, it's gonna be 30 seconds, he said, to
Oh.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it's booted up, but she wants to call in. So now all of them are shaky. Yeah, so should I have red lights on? I don't know, it doesn't look normal for this.
I have the phone call here.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
You have Mickey?
Who is it?
Hello.
It's Suzanne.
Can you state your name
Yeah,
and
Mickey Luna.
where you're
Is
at?
this Luna? I think they're calling from their help, they're using, because not everybody that
Oh,
has my
they're
number.
using the, oh, so let's give
Yeah.
her
Go ahead. Yeah. Yes.
Who is this?
Who is this?
Who are we speaking to?
But it's not Suzanne's turn.
Oh, it's not your turn, Suzanne. It's
Mickey Luna.
Okay, I'll text when it's your turn, okay?
We don't have a card for her? We don't have a card for her. She's still on a card.
Okay, go, can you take a card to Cecile? Thank you, Cindy.
Do you know where Mickey
So
is,
Brandon,
Aaron?
red light at the top,
It's
green
working.
light's on the other side. Have you tried to call in to see if it works?
Yes.
It does work?
Yes.
The phone is working now. We're
There's nobody in
calling
the
on
queue.
the regular number.
Yeah, they can just call in on the radio.
Okay, I'll text.
Is she trying to call Aaron?
Suzanne.
Oh, what about Mickey?
It's Mickey Luna's turn.
There's no Nikki.
Oh,
Mickey, M-I-C-K-I.
Up there?
Richard's there.
That's right. What about Richard Perez Senior?
No.
That is so weird.
Okay.
Okay. So we're getting a call.
Call from.
Right, man, Eva.
To accept this call, press 1.
Hello, if you could, give us your name and what area you're from, then I will start the timer for your 3-minute comment.
Right, man, Eva. I'm here to go around.
Thank you.
So, first things first, I want to find out if those children that were wrongfully pulled out of their classrooms last time have gotten their public apology, which they deserve. The next thing I need to get to is shutting down classes. My children were just part of a full quarantine of a classroom. That just happened, and the only way I found out about this was through an email. I live a normal life, as I hope everybody else in the United States of America is doing. I work. My wife works. We both work. So shutting down an entire classroom and letting me know through an email is very wrong for the school district to be doing. And I don't understand why a whole classroom would be quarantined when not every single one of those kids tested positive for COVID. And getting onto that, my kids are sent home for 5 days. No symptoms. One of my children tested positive, but she has no symptoms, no signs. She's been cleared, and I'm told that she still cannot come to school. When we know for a fact that people are testing out 90+ days positive, showing no signs because they're symptomatic. There's a flaw in your guys' system, and it needs to be addressed and corrected. We shouldn't be shutting down entire classrooms to quarantine them. This COVID variant is mild compared to other ones, and children are not likely to have any detrimental side effects from this thing. Yet we're shutting it down. It's time for us to stop playing games, people. It's time to stop. Because this is getting ridiculous. We're playing with our children's lives. We're hurting them day in and day out because we have people that want to play group games. Now, my child, my beautiful daughter, has anxiety attacks. It kills me. Anxiety attacks to go to school because she can't stand wearing a mask. Children are not being affected. If you look at the death rate of children, it is under 800, and that's what they calculated from 18 below. Our children are not being hurt by this. Stop playing with our children. Let them live a normal life. You guys as trustees are supposed to be protecting our children and helping them succeed in life, and you're damaging them right now. I'm letting you know. You guys will be voted out. Our children should not be forced to wear masks every day. It's helping them do damage. Do your guys' job, please. Protect our children. Help them. Remove the mask and stop these quarantines.
Thank you for calling in.
Call from.
Mrs. Volley, can you please just state your name and from what area you're at, and then I will start the timer for your 3-minute comment.
My name is Kathleen Sampson, and I'm calling in about to unmask our children at school. I am a retired respiratory therapist, 36 years. I know the science about these masks. They are doing no good and much more harm by keeping bacteria. It does nothing for viruses, and the N95s are so uncomfortable. They have to be properly fitted, and the whole thing is just a farce. And more is coming out. It's time for California to stand up and protect our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Lori. If you could state your full name and then also where you're calling from, what area of Hollister, I will then start your timer for your comment.
So my name is Lori Boyd, and I'm calling from the area of Hollister.
Okay, go ahead and go.
Hi, my name is Lori Boyd.
Okay, Lori, I can hear you, but go ahead and start your comment. Oh, can you turn off whatever you have in the background?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Good evening, board members and Superintendent Sanchez and public. I am calling because I have three children, two in the Hollister School District, one at Calvary, one at Rancho San Francisco, and I am also a teacher at the Accelerated Achievement Academy. And I can only speak from my experience. However, my children, 12, 13, and even my 16-year-old, have no issue wearing a mask at school. They are sure to leave the house with a mask every time we need to go somewhere, and they are certain to wear them at school. Now, I will say for my students, very rarely is it an issue for my students. They come with a mask to school, and if they do not, they reach into the room and they grab a mask and put it on first thing. And I have actually zero complaints about wearing a mask at school. So I understand that people are concerned about different issues about wearing masks, but when I look at my fifth graders, all 29 of them, and I can tell they're smiling under their mask. Yes, I miss seeing their faces, but I'd much rather be in person with them, with our safety measures in hand, and be able to interact with them the way we normally would. So that is pretty much all I wanted to say. I just want you to know that as an educator, and I have taught in the district for 24 years, I fully support students being in the classroom and with them. And yes, my classroom has been closed, but we came back to a pretty uneventful week this week, and we haven't seen the rise in cases in our classes since we returned. So I appreciate your time and energy and for listening to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cynthia, to accept this call.
Hello, Cynthia. If you could state your full name and what area of our district you're calling in from, then I will start the timer for your 3-minute comment.
Okay, my name is Cynthia Nadi, and I'm a teacher in for students that have gone through the Hollister School District. graders, and there is no drama around the mask. They do not mind wearing them. And I know because their parents don't give them any drama at home. I think that it's how it's how we come about it, how we present it to our children, and how our children are going to react to it. If we make a big deal about something, then the kids are going to react that it's a big deal. You know, the kids have fun with their little faces on it. And, you know, we just go through the day, we wear the mask, they take them off. So, and like I said, I don't know where all this, I've been teaching for 22 years, it has not been, you know, fun the last couple of years, but the kids are not sad. They're happy, they're joyous, and they're free, and you know, we're getting through it. And I just think that how you put it out there, how we teach our children. And way back in the early 1900s, there was a pandemic, and we did wear masks, and we did get through it way back then. It is scientifically proven that masks stop the spread. So I'm curious as to where this scientifically proven stuff is that masks do not stop the spread. But I'm just here to tell you that as somebody that's out on the front lines all the time, the masks are working, and my children that I work with are not sad and are happy, joyous, and free. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in.
Suzanne Garcia? Yeah, okay.
Lisa, I think I forgot to put my name on. Okay. Silly. Yeah, like I'm just like my students.
Did you say masks in the classroom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is she calling?
Are we getting her on the phone?
Hold on, let me call her. Oh, it's her time.
Yeah, she's calling. She's calling.
Okay, Susan, you're in. Okay. Okay.
So I just want this to be on record. I have underneath the CARE Act, elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, the ESSER 1, section 18003. On here, it specifically shows that San Benito Hollister School District received a total of $703,384 from under that CARES Fund Act, which also implies that you have committed to masking these children and showing proof of universal masking and vaccination and everything that goes along with these COVID measures. That because you receive that money, you have to show proof that you're doing that every 6 months, which is why you're not masking these children. And when these parents are begging you to get the mask off their children, you're basically ignoring their pleas because you took this money. Instead, you're choosing to keep the money and continue to mask these children. So therefore, I implore every parent to demand that you give this money back and get the mask off the children. There's no studies that show absolute reduction in wearing masks. You guys continue to ignore the studies and this has been going on for 2 years. It's obvious the masks don't work. If they did, we would show reduction in infection rates in hospitals. And that's not even close to, you're not showing any evidence that they work. So why keep the kids in the mask if they don't work? Thank you.
She's with Seattle.
Can someone let Shiloh Burns know to call in or come in if they have a mask? Hello, Ms. Burns, can you say from where you were at in the district, like which school maybe you're nearest?
Yes, R.O. Hardin.
No, you've got 3 minutes. Thanks, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Shiloh Burns. I'm a resident of the Hollister School District, and I'm a concerned mom. I'm here to voice my strong concerns about the mandatory mask mandates imposed on our kids. This unconstitutional mandate is cruel and unfair to our children. I have personally witnessed the detrimental effects, socially, emotionally, and physically, of these masks being forced on these kids. This is not a law, it is a mandate. And the very legal definition of a mandate is that it is voluntary. You should not, and you have no right to impose these masks upon the kids who don't want them and against the parents' wills. If some parents have no problem allowing their kids to wear masks, then allow the kids to wear them. Those kids to wear them. But we deserve the right to choose for our own children. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen Sampson? Just make sure that we know from what school you're from.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Sampson. I am a teacher at Mays Middle School. And I've been teaching there for 9 years. But anyway, so I'm a teacher. I see students every day. And I will also say, about the mask that, it's not causing any emotional, any sort of depression and with students. Other things are causing depression with students that I won't go into, but definitely not the mask. That's the least of their problems. Having to deal with a whole year pandemic and being at home and having to deal with whatever trauma they had at home was a lot worse than having to wear a mask. And they know it. They're happy to be at school. They're very happy to be at school. And I'm happy that I'm there with them. I would rather be in person than continuing with distance learning. I understand though, if we have to go there, we have to go there. But, because I'm all about keeping our kids, our students safe. And, you're right that masks are not 100%, cure or whatever you want to call it from this disease, but it helps prevent. I can't imagine how much worse it would be if we didn't have the mask mandate at school. It would be a lot worse than it is. We wouldn't, I haven't had my classes shut down yet, and I'm hoping that I don't, but who knows. But I do have a lot of students out on independent study because they are either exposed or they are sick. But I would rather have them safe than anything. I think if you really care about our children, you would want to do everything you can to prevent them from getting sick. And even if, you say, oh, it's just like a cold, not for every person. There are kids who have been hospitalized. And personally, I wouldn't want the kids to get sick. I don't want them to get sick. Why would you want them to get sick? So anyway, I just wanted to say that, the students are fine with the masks. They're happy at school, and that's where they should be. And there are worse problems than children having to wear, than the mask that they're dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Megan Phillips. If you could say what school you're closest to.
Yeah, okay, so hi, my name is Megan Phillips, and I really appreciate the time you're taking to listen to me. at school, at first, when I went to school, it was okay with the mask. But progressively, as time went on, I started to notice that I wasn't being myself. I started to feel I used to get panic attacks a lot. So I told my mom about it, about how I was getting a lot of panic attacks and how it wasn't like me because I never had them before. And she told me that she would just take me to a doctor, see what's wrong with me. So then a few days later, I have a nervous breakdown and I literally don't even know what to do and I'm in the ER. And the doctors tell my mom that I have severe anxiety, and that was a shock to me because I've never had anxiety in my life. But what I did realize was every time at school where I would wear the mask, I would feel like fainting and passing out. There was this one time I was at the grocery store and I had it on and I almost passed out, which is not okay and it's not healthy. This is a very small thing that I'm saying, but I just want to address that I don't think if parents want to mask their kids, it's okay because they want to keep them safe, but if you don't want to mask your kids, they shouldn't have to because parents can make the decision for their kids.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe that's the end of the cards that I have in any calls. So, thank you to everyone who provided public comment. I think it's an important process, right, that all sides be heard. And I'm really glad that we were able to do that, and listen to one another. And I especially, like I said earlier, I think having the young people here and the young people who I know are watching also, that every voice is heard. And that usually we're not supposed to respond to anyone who makes a public comment, but I do want to say, acknowledge your bravery and how articulate you were in your opinion. So I want to acknowledge that. So thank you. So moving on, we to item number 8, we have a public hearing, and we'll pass that to legal counsel.
Hello, sorry about that. Hi, my name is Nicole Tucker. I'm an attorney from Atkinson Andelson, and I'm here to give a present. Oh, can you not hear me?
Not well.
Oh, alrighty. Give me just a second. Okay, is that better? Yep. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to present this evening. My name is Nicole Tucker, and I'm an attorney from Atkinson Andelson, and I'm here to do a presentation on your the trustee area maps. If I can just share my screen. Here we go. Alrighty. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay. Alrighty. So following the 2020 census, the trustee areas have to be redrawn in order for the populations to be roughly proportional. The rough proportionality is a constitutional standard. And it's also the standard of the California Education Code and California Voting Rights Act. And so 10% or less population variance in each trustee area is what we're looking for. So just to be clear, I know the law on this. I am not a demographer, so I didn't draw these maps. But as we go through, if you have any questions, please let me know. When the demographer draws these maps, they take into consideration first and foremost that population balance. That is the most compelling and most important constitutional standard, but they also look into keeping the trustee areas compact and contiguous as much as possible, so they're not, kind of bizarre shapes. respecting communities of interest, respecting incumbencies, and some other local considerations. So this is our 2020 census data. So our total population for the Hollister School District is just about 50,500 people. And then over here is our, I'm gonna move my little window so I can read the word, sorry about that. Over here is our age 18 and over population. So this statistic here is just for your information. There's two important statistics when we're looking at balancing districts. The first is the total population, that's at 10%. And the second is going to be our CVAP population. So CVAP is a citizen voting age population. And so this is a projected number of registered voting citizens in your district here. And so CVAP is how you can determine majority minority districts. So those are the two percentages that we look at when drawing the maps. What's demonstrated here by all these different colors, these are census blocks, and the demographer uses the census blocks to draw the map. So for both scenarios that I'm going to present this evening, like I said,
If it's okay, Nicole?
I'm sorry?
We have a question.
Can we go back to this map?
This one here?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the problems is that if you look at where it says Fairview Road, and you see that on the map, the streets, they are in the county, but they are in Hollister School District. So this is a part of a trustee. These need to be counted.
What slide are you on here?
Right here, the very first one.
Page
Two.
Slide 2.
Okay.
So what we need to ask is, this whole area, is that incorporated in Hollister?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So where it says Fairview Road, can you see that on the map?
I'm looking here. It's a little
To the
small.
right.
Okay, I think I see it.
So everything that's outlined on this map is Hollister School District, or is it just what is
In yellow.
just what is in yellow?
Everything that's outlined is Hollister School District.
Okay, all right.
So those more vivid colors, this gray area here, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not. So this is not going to be Hollister, but everything within the black line is Hollister.
Okay, it's HSD.
Yes.
School District. Okay, gotcha. Thank you for clearing that up.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. Is there any other question? That's a very good question. I know that, sometimes the colors and stuff aren't super clear. Were there any other questions here?
No, it's good. Thank you.
No, good to go. Okay. All righty. So for the so both scenarios that we're going to go through tonight, again, they're both constitutional. They both are below that 10% variance with population. And so sometimes the boards will ask us, is one map better than the other? They're both constitutional. They both meet those requirements. And then it's up to you as the elected officials to decide which one works best for your constituency. So this is conceptual trustee area scenario 1.
On number 4, on page 4, the third bullet, it said, secondly, trying to stay as close to the current trustee area boundaries as possible with only minor changes as needed. So I don't believe we ever stated that to anybody, to the demographer. I don't even think we've spoken to the demographer. So I'm just curious. I think we were all curious as to why that action was taken versus having it re-evaluated and more than just two designs, because I'm assuming you tried to stay as close to what we have now, but that wasn't the desired outcome that we had stipulated as a board.
And if I could add, nor is it what we're supposed to be doing. My understanding when we first were presented, it's we don't want to do anything that's illegal, and we also want to honor the voting rights, the purpose, right, of creating these trustee areas. So I agree with Trustee Martinez. I'm concerned about that bullet point and not sure where that came from.
Okay, so the legal standard here, when it comes to balancing trustee areas, which is what we're doing. So we're balancing existing trustee areas. That is a specific procedure under the education code for school districts. If you wish to completely scrap all trustee areas and rebuild from the bottom up, that's a completely different process. And that is not what we're doing here. That requires additional legal steps. And that's not the process that we're doing here.
So I guess we're confused because when we initially did this 2 years ago, the people that came and provided us 6 or 7 maps. We had a similar process in public. We then had a community stakeholder meeting where we reviewed all the maps, we dialogued about them, and then we also asked when the census data came in, this was going to happen again, they told us, and that we were going to go through the same process again at that point, which is now. And so the worry, Nicole, just to be honest, is we don't want to do any kind of map that appears to be gerrymandering. We don't want to do any kind of map that appears that we want to stay in our own district, because that's not the purpose of creating these trustee areas. So I'm not sure if you're versed on that, or if we need to maybe go back and talk to somebody else, but that's our concern, I think, unless anyone has other.
So may I ask a question? When you did this 2 years ago, were you creating trustee areas?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a different procedure under the law. So it's a different standard under the law when we're creating from scratch trustee areas versus when we're balancing districts. And so this process is a balancing of districts based upon based upon the census data.
Right, so this is the first time really that we're using correct, this is the first time really that we're using correct census data to do our district. Because when we did it 2 years ago, it was 8 years old. And so they said, of course, things are gonna change. So when we got this, we only had 2 maps, and 2 years ago we had 6. We were like, whoa, what's going on? So you could see that we were kind of like, and then the statement that we're trying to keep as close as possible, when we were told that, this is gonna be different, because we've had so many Hollisters under, we're growing because we have all these new housing developments coming in. So we thought there would be some changes.
I'm sorry, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Not having been party to the last process that we went through, is part of what we do when we balance this is to make sure that each of our constituencies, the areas have almost equal amounts of any of the ethnicities. Is that what we're also trying to do?
So that percentage that's that CVAP percentage that we were talking about when it was the minority majority districts. So those that CVAP population does come into play when looking at balancing the different districts. And so we don't want to pack a district. We also don't want to frack a district, meaning we don't want to have all of the communities of interest in one district, in one trustee area, and then limit their voting impact. We also don't want to scatter communities of interest so that there's no majority minority. So yes, that is something that comes into play when building these maps, when the demographer builds these maps. But the demographer is also locked into those census blocks that were shown here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have other questions?
Well, do we want to let her finish her presentation?
Yeah.
And then we can kind of.
If we should let you finish,
I'm
we're
sorry,
sorry.
Nicole.
No, not a problem. I love the questions. Alrighty, so this is scenario one that the demographer has created here. And I will let you look at that for a moment.
I know we said no questions, but I have a question on that one.
All right.
Just because we're on that one. So what, scenario one, looking at the yellow, which is a combination, it would be a combination of trustee Grist and I's area. But do they take into account the developments that are currently underway, the housing developments that are underway and the potential population, or is that not something that they worry about?
So when these maps are built, so when these maps are built, they have to be based on the population that existed at the time of the census. So if you have personal knowledge regarding different communities that are being built up in this area, that's something that you can take into consideration when voting on which scenario you believe is best. But the census, in order to balance the districts, the trustee areas, they have to be based on the 2020 census data.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then looking at scenario one, if we're going through this, the statistics up here, it has a variance of 4.1, which is a really wonderful variance number. Again, it's below that 10%, so it's constitutional. Looking at the different trustee areas, you have majority districts in trustee area 1, 2, and 3, along with a plurality in 4. Alrighty. Are there any questions on the demographics of trustee of the scenario one?
Ready?
No. Okay.
Well,
Alrighty.
Sorry, Nicole. Because I know the concentration of the Hispanic community is more so in area 1 and 2. I mean, you can't, the people that live in the areas live in the areas, right? It's not that's just how things have laid out. So it's not like we can move and try to dissect so that the percentages are balanced out there. I just don't see how, because it says 73.8%, area 1, or trustee area 1, 79.1, area 2, 69.9, 52.4, and 51.9. So that percentage is where I think we were just trying to figure out with the maps how they are, there's no way of mapping to where there's a closer balance, is what I'm trying to say, in percentages right now, because they're pretty similar. Both of the scenarios are pretty well outlined in the same 70s, 60s, 50s percentage. There's really not much of a difference from one scenario to the next, right?
Correct. There's the scenario 2, really we see the impact in trustee areas 1 and 5, if I'm flipping between the two, with some impacts with 2 and 3 about different neighborhoods. But again, the way that the maps are drawn, they have to be drawn using the census blocks. And these colors here indicate the census blocks. And so this is the blocks and how they need to be moved around in the different map options.
Well,
Does that make sense?
my concern is that we have 2 districts, trustee 4 and trustee 5, where our largest group, our Hispanic Latino group in trustee 4 and trustee 5 is just a little bit over 50%. And the other trustees areas 1, 2, and 3 are between 70% up to just short of 80%. That's a big difference. And I think that we need to be, it just doesn't seem fair to me.
I think that when she talked about we can't have areas that
Yes.
zigzag in order to make sure that we get that higher,
I understand.
that higher demographic. However, as these homes get built and get filled with these new developments, I'm noticing, because a lot of them are being built near me, that there's a higher amount of diversity of people who are moving in.
I do notice that
So
too.
does this mean that we can't re-look at this until 10 years from now?
Oh yeah, that's a legal question.
Yeah.
Yes, these maps are set for 10 years, based off the census data.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Were there any other questions on scenario 1?
No.
All right, so we'll go to scenario 2. We can take a look here. Were there any questions on the map before we get to the actual statistics of it? Okay. Alrighty, so this variance has a 2.4% population variance, which is a really unheard of statistic. And then we also have trustee area 1, 2, and 3 being minority majority districts when we're looking at that population. And were there any questions about this map scenario?
Question?
No.
It just seems, it appears to be fair.
Right, and the variance, you know,
Yeah.
you said is really low, right? That's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so that variance shows the total population, so every human being within that voting area. And so there's a 2.4% variance when we look at the total population. So that's going to be that top line there. So you can see they are all really close together when we're looking, 10,000, 219, 10,222, 9,995. That's all very close together, that top line, when it comes to total populations within those trustee areas. But if we can always take these maps back to the demographer with your different concerns and see if we can, speak with them and get some other options for you to consider, if that's something you would like us to do.
I think not failure, but I think our lack of understanding was, as you stated, the first time you do this, there are certain measures you're taking. This is the second time we're doing it. So the law indicates what did you say? Our obligation is to
be less than 10%.
Right, but in
The balance
the
population.
questions that I read when I stated balancing, so the objective of now is to balance what already exists,
Correct.
not recreate the wheel.
Correct. Again, that's a different process under the law. Creating trustee areas is a completely different process under the law versus balancing based upon census data.
But I think even with balancing, I would think 2 scenarios doesn't give you a lot of room for, I mean, I would
We were
like to
expecting
have
more choice.
at least 3 or 4 to understand, right, like what are the options, but thank you for explaining, right, that this is a very different process from the first time.
Yeah, of course. And I've spoken with Kip and Erica from the district, and that they have posted these on their website for public comment, and it's also available for public comment this evening. And so you guys, you all don't have to vote on a map tonight, and we can go back to the demographer and bring you some more options. We do have a hard and fast deadline though, that is created under the law. We have a March 1st deadline we have to submit a choice to on which map. Usually we get our census data much earlier, so we have more time for the map, but because of COVID, we didn't get the data until late November. And so we had to build the maps rather quickly. But they didn't push back the turnaround time for us to submit a map. So we can go back to the demographer and, taking into consideration, the different issues you guys have with these ones. So you can have a couple other maps to look at if that's something you would like us to do.
But I think my question would be, I know you're not the expert in that, but what would be a realistic turnaround time from a demographer to be able to create new maps basically from scratch? Because what we saw 2 years ago, that's gone. So based on the data now, we have 2 in existence, but how much time would 2 more take or 3 more take? You know what I mean? So I don't know if you can answer that, but if we cannot meet that March 1st deadline, then this conversation really is moot. Yeah.
Yes, I would like to ask if we could just have one more map of scenario 1, which has the 4.4% variation. The 2.2 is good. If we could just get another idea of scenario 1, another map with that, and try to lower the variation. Isn't that what it's called, variation? Yeah, variance.
And I'd like to consider, like, being in number 4, I'm kind of in the middle of everything, okay? And so I don't see much opportunity for my area to grow, even with all the new housing. So I'm inclined to try to be, can maybe I go out farther to the right for trustee area 4, where there will be more housing, so that somebody else, you see what I'm saying? I'm trying to set it up so that 10 years from now, mine went up like some teeny weeny percent because I'm basically surrounded by all the other districts.
Right. But all I'm saying is that I don't think we're asking for, we're just asking if we could get, for them to look at scenario 1 and give us, try to get that variance lowered, and change that up so we have something else to look at.
And it also looks like to balance out.
That's not a problem.
And I think also trustee Marks' comment, for the demographer, take that into consideration. And I think for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable voting today without stakeholder input or, so just saying, I know we have another opportunity, which will be good.
We would be, do we need to make a motion on it?
Right now,
Well, it's a public hearing. If Superintendent Sanchez could get in contact with the, you
Well,
guys.
that's the next agenda
Oh, okay,
Trustee Maps is the next one.
item. That's the next one.
okay.
If we're done with,
So this is just a public hearing.
let me double check, do we have any other questions for Nicole for this piece of the presentation? Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and we'll be back and presenting another map for you all.
Okay, that'll be great, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Number 9 is an action item on the trustee area map. So it says the board will consider the attached resolution selecting a final adjusted trustee area map plan scenario for use in electing governing board members starting November 2022, governing board members election. Any?
So this resolution does not have to be adopted tonight. However, we do have that hard March 1st deadline. Our next regular scheduled board meeting would be February 22nd. As soon as we receive the maps from the demographer, we can post them online as we have these two for public feedback. However, I would probably just consider the fact that the next board meeting will be the board meeting to make the decision to meet that March 1st deadline.
Can I make a motion?
Well, we wouldn't be taking action tonight.
Okay,
She just
yeah.
stated.
Well, what I would like to see is that Superintendent Sanchez get a hold of this company, ask for scenario 1 to be get us another map to look at. We schedule a community meeting and have a couple of trustees there with, set up, we come, we look, have the public input, or do a Zoom, whatever Superintendent Sanchez wants to do, she'll make the meeting happen. And have 2 of the trustees there, I'll volunteer as one, and we'll have somebody else show up as well. And we'll have a public meeting so they can see the map, so we'll talk about it. And then through the committee, we can have a discussion at the board meeting so that we can make a decision in February.
Do you all think that's realistic with time and?
Well, that has to be made as a motion. So it's just one trustee making that desired
So it's a motion?
comment
Okay, yes, yeah, I didn't make a
so
motion.
So,
then that would need to be seconded as to then give direction to the superintendent as to what she requested.
Well, I'm just trying to come up with a way that we can get it done.
But what I'm saying is the rest of the board have to agree with you right now.
Yeah.
So,
That's
you
what I'm
made that
saying.
motion, so
Does anybody else have another idea of how we could get this done and get it?
well, first of all, your motion is on the floor.
Well, I didn't
So we
make a
gotta make
motion.
a second. And
Is
if
there a
there is no
second?
second,
is there a second for Jan or trustee?
So that we can have a discussion. I don't know. Well, the second allows us to talk about it.
Okay. And you could also rescind.
Yes.
After the discussion, you could say, I'll take that after.
Okay, second.
No, we
Discussion.
didn't talk about it yet.
What do you all think?
Lousy idea.
Do we know the timeframe?
No, it would be a matter of contacting the company. We could do that tomorrow, as soon as tomorrow and,
On Monday.
or Monday.
no,
Um,
Friday.
And request an approximate timeline and a date when we can expect. If I understood trustee Chris' request, it would be a scenario 3, not necessarily
Well, yeah,
reflective of
redo
scenario
one,
1.
yes,
Well, it's not redoing one, it's
No,
just
it's
creating
just
a
Right.
a third
scenario.
separate.
right.
Okay, I want to be clear.
I want to offer, I feel like there are other things that are so much more critical, although this is very important. But I think there might be a different way besides, maybe could we do, when the presentation happens at the next board meeting, it is again similar, where it's a presentation, you're gonna come present the different scenarios. could we in advance, send this out, email, you know, maybe publicly say, looking for, your feedback to our stakeholders, but not a community meeting, but just kind of like blast it out there like, hey, we really need your feedback, stakeholders, community. We're looking at trustee maps. If we can get the option number 3 out, you know, and then at our public meeting where we all will be out, we can thoroughly vet it, discuss it, and then hopefully get feedback from the community then. And then we have to vote. At the board meeting to meet the deadline. Wow. Did I just worry with the, I think that would have been a good idea, like if only 2 of us are there, we're not all gonna be there to hear the feedback. That's true.
What if, I'm just thinking on the fly here, what if we heard back from the demographer on when we could expect to get a 3rd scenario set, and let's say it's like 2 weeks before the scheduled February regular meeting. Might we set a special meeting that is a combination of public feedback and preparing that for maybe even making a decision that night, or then that gives us an option to have revisions or more questions asked should we need them out of that meeting to still be ready to make the vote when we have our February regular meeting. Does that sound reasonable?
It does to me.
But it would be completely dependent on when the demographer could produce that 3rd scenario.
Yeah, depending on that.
Yeah.
Big depending.
Correct.
And so I'm in agreement with you, Lisa. I think the fact that if we had more definite timeframe as to what, when, and how we can get this done, this is important because this is beyond
10 years.
beyond us.
Right.
And whoever may be running for these seats in the future, you know, it's looking to the future of the district and people running for these seats.
Then we should take time.
So I think it is important for anybody listening to the board meeting for you all to have an input and look at these maps, because if you ever want to run for a school district, specifically this one, I think it's important for you to start looking at what that may look like for you. So yes, I do agree with community input, and I'm just hoping we can get the information to our community out in time to get that feedback from folks, to then utilize that either through our website or through social media, however we can monitor and get that information back to us as a whole. But if we could do a special board meeting to analyze that data and have that, because I'm not sure if this has to be done at a regular board meeting. There are certain things that can be taken only in regular board meetings, and other action that you can do whenever, but I'm not quite sure. But again, if it's through a regular board meeting, then we would have to still wait for that set scheduled day to take action. But we could if we could meet that deadline and have a special board meeting just to include this feedback from the community, I would like to do that.
Yeah, I agree, and then the only other thing is I'm gonna restate that if a scenario 3 is going to be looked at, that they really take a look at trustee area 4, and with in mind, even the planned building that we know about.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can go out to the left or the right a little bit, or if this area can go out a little to the right or the left, I feel like it will absorb more of that additional population over the next 10 years than if it just sits where it's at right now.
I agree.
I believe that trustee area 5 is going to grow extremely.
Well, yeah, I think 5 is gonna grow, because they were talking about putting homes here next to Gathering College. But we definitely know that trustee 1 and trustee 2 are gonna go big.
Well, and 3, they've got a lot of buildings going going out
Yeah.
behind Oak Creek and in that area off Southside Road.
I know.
So there was a motion made and we're discussing.
Right. So we need to I gotta remove, how do I do it? I remove my motion, I take my motion back. That's not right. What am I supposed to say?
So now based on
I
discussion.
revoke my motion.
So, Jan, you, okay,
I revoke it.
And
and your second,
trustee Mark?
I revoke my second.
okay, do you wanna restate your motion?
Okay, I'm gonna restate,
Or
anybody else?
I
Anybody
was
else,
gonna
right?
restate Lisa's motion.
Okay.
Or Lisa, you wanna state the motion?
I move that depending upon when we can get a scenario 3, that we consider that data in public in a special board meeting and have that community feedback and be prepared then at that point to vote, be more prepared to vote at the regular February meeting on this subject.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
I second that.
And discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Good working together.
Number 10 is approval of the minutes for the December 14th regular board meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes from the December meeting.
Second,
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 11 is consent items. Is there a motion to approve consent items?
I make the motion that we approve consent items 11A through 11F.
Okay, second? Anyone?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, number 12 is a discussion action item, approval of AB 1200 disclosure bargaining unit agreements. And we have a speaker, Lisa Lee.
So I'll introduce the item. Good evening, board. This item 12A is the approval of the AB 1200 disclosure and the 1% salary increase for both HESTA and CSEA. Interim Director Lisa Williams will speak to it.
Good evening, members of the board. As Superintendent Sanchez just mentioned this, we're here tonight to present the AB 1200 public disclosures of the collective bargaining agreements. Tonight's agenda item is related to the final settlement of the collective bargaining agreements with both HESTA and CSCA for 2020-2021. Upon final closure of the 2021 fiscal year, the district agreed to increase the salary schedules by an additional 1% retroactive to July 1st, 2020. Included in your board packet are the AB 1200 public disclosures of collective bargaining agreements. By law, we are required to prepare and submit these documents to the County Office of Education, showing what the fiscal impact of the settlement agreements will be for the 2021 school year and also for the 2 subsequent years. The ongoing annual cost of this 1% increase for both HESTA and CSEA is $391,900. As you recall, in our first interim report, we had already included the fiscal impact of this. So you can see that on the multi-year projection, there is no change from what was submitted with our first interim report. Any changes to our multi-year projections as of second interim will be related to other factors which would not be related to these settlement agreements. There's no question that it's my recommendation that the board approve the AB 1200 public disclosures as well as the salary schedules for the 1% retroactive to July 1st, 2020.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone?
I
We'll
just-
start with trustee Grist and we'll go around.
I just want to thank everyone who has been working on this and changing things up, and this has been a very difficult time, and I just want to thank everyone. I think it's on. I just want to thank everyone. I usually have a pretty good voice.
People are saying they can't hear us. That's something
Okay,
that might
yeah.
us to.
I just want to thank everyone. That's what I care about, and I appreciate everyone's help.
Trustee Martinez?
I just want to thank our union partners. I know, this was a little bit trying, and I want to thank everyone for their patience and their grace, because, it took us a little while to figure, things out with our budget. And I want to thank everybody for working together and getting to this point. Thank you.
I would also like to thank everyone involved, especially with patients. And it's a lot of work and a lot of time, especially a lot of time. So thank you to everyone involved.
I have nothing additional to add, except for that I agree with all the hard work that everybody had to put in, and all the patience of the people who've been waiting. And thank you for getting it all together. I'm looking forward to getting it implemented.
Thank you, and I think that we are unanimous in feeling, that thank you for doing this and for all the hard work, and that this is at least something we can do for our staff, right, for everything that's happening. So, thank you. And if we have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the 1% for the bargaining units, AB 1200 disclosure. I think that's all.
It's right here.
Oh, it is recommended that we approve the AB 1200 disclosure for HESTA and CSCA on the tentative agreement from 2020 to 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you. Moving on.
Superintendent Sanchez, do we have to discuss the other part that you and I talked about? Or? No.
Okay, item 12B, Superintendent Report. This is a follow-up to January 10th special board meeting. Superintendent Sanchez.
So good evening, community and board. Tonight's update will reflect data from January 10th onward to January 25th, based on the discussion that we had at the special board meeting on January 10th. So we will move forward with this with staff data. As you can recall, on January 10th, we took a look at the absences for both classified and certificated staff for the early weeks of January. And so this is a follow-up to that same data, starting on Monday, January 17th, and going on through that Friday. On the next slide, we will have a few more days, right up leading to January 25th. As you can see, we are still, at that time, having high absences. We have the number of classrooms that were uncovered on those particular days. This is the combined absences for classified and certificated staff together. When we, on the third column there, see the classrooms that are uncovered, that is where the principals, the assistant principals, cabinet, supplemental certificated staff, such as intervention teachers, sometimes PE teachers, sometimes other staff are covering classrooms. That's how we're getting the classrooms covered. So then the final 2 days that were on this presentation were the 24th and the 25th. As you can see, we're still having steady numbers in regards to our absences, and our classrooms that are uncovered are around the 5 mark. I do want to let the board know and our community knows that since this presentation was put together, our numbers for COVID positive cases for staff and students are decreasing. So I do look forward to providing that data to the public at our next available opportunity. So our attendance data, this is where, as you recall, it is calculated on the average, and we will look at district averages. Last time, we looked at an attendance average of 83.4 district-wide. On January 7th, that's what the number was. As you can recall, on January 10th, I indicated that that was the lowest ADA I had ever witnessed here. But little did I know or comment was that it was going to get lower. So on the 25th, the average student daily attendance was 63%, and it has dipped even further. We have some schools that are individually ranking at 39%, 37%, 32%, but again, this is from the 25th. This is something that we do have to remember and keep in mind as we move forward. We do have a lot, and by a lot, I mean thousands of independent study contracts that are staffed. Our teachers, our office staff are working very diligently on, and that are, it's taking a lot of their time and energy to work with these independent study contracts. However, this ADA in the future will not go up unless we have the completed and signed packet returned. So that's one thing that we need to think about. Not only are we looking at this number, but we also have to look at the packets that come back that are completed.
Those are not included.
Those are not included. So what is HSD doing now? If I can please click on the words there, it'll lead us to a document that we put together, and there's a table that is called COVID Proactive Measures, and that will be coming up. It is an opportunity for the board and our community to see all of the items that we put into place since January 10th, and it's a separate document, but we're getting there. Thank you. If we can, okay, there it is. So right now, we are having conversations through negotiations with our labor partners, HESTA and CSEA, in regards to COVID-19 impacts to the workload. That's ongoing. From January 11th to the present day, we have worked very closely with our HR department. The HR department is a small team, but they are working very diligently to hire classified and certificated staff via substitutes. The number that we have hired since we've relaxed the requirement is above 20 in just about a week and a half.
Wow.
What I would like to absolutely thank is that our community has come forward. We have parents, we have community members that perhaps have an undergraduate degree but not necessarily the CBEST, and or we have staff that are now part of our substitute ranks that have been hired in the last few days because they know that our schools need substitutes. So we're very thankful for that. We also have our cabinet, our district office administrators, myself, the assistant superintendent, checking in with the sites, and we are supporting. We heard that a little bit earlier, that sometimes when we come to the district office, parking lot's empty. It's not that we're taking a day off. We are out there. We're working. We have been working in the classrooms, working to provide support to office staff. We have been working to provide support to the yard duty staff, working to provide even if it's a small reprieve to our principals who are wearing many, many hats nowadays, and as always, being so gracious about it. So as you can see, that column lists every single department that has been out there. We have student nutrition staff playing basketball with our students out on the yard to help cover the yards for yard duty. We have transport drivers helping cover the middle school yard duty. It is just a beautiful example of people coming together to make it happen every day. If we could scroll down a little bit, please. On Wednesday, the 12th, we distributed KN95 mask packs to all HSD staff and Hollister Prep School staff because they are on our campus. If we can help them and it can keep our staff safe and our students safe, we will do that. Every staff member got a pack of 5 and it was an opt-in type of basis. We passed out 3,700 masks altogether. We also passed out instructions on how to make them reusable while they were in good condition. On the 12th, we also had a meeting with our labor partner CSEA to allow for our health clerks to have a temporary increase of 2 hours, up to 2 hours per day. That's a voluntary opt-in payable on a timesheet to help with all the calls and addressing all of the COVID needs. If we can scroll down, please. So moving on down, we've been busy. We're also looking at our Parent Square messages. We know that we have to continuously improve our communication, but Parent Square is a tool that we use to allow for families and staff to know information. In this case, we passed out information regarding local options for COVID testing sites. We've also messaged families, and this is where we got an increase of interest in our substitute requirements that they had been relaxed. We distributed COVID test kits. We passed out 8,500 to our sites. And I'd like to thank our County Office of Ed, our Superintendent Crystal Lamonto and her staff that help us in obtaining these types of tests so that we could provide them to our sites. We also have updated our COVID guidance. As we all know, COVID guidance changes very quickly and very fluidly, and our school nurses do a very incredible job maintaining our staff and themselves up to date, and every time it gets updated, we do send that out. On a holiday where 99.9% of us were at home probably, we had Anne and her team here boxing up 2,700 or 1,200, lunches for students that are on independent study contract. That shows dedication, and for that, I just thank her and her team. We're so thankful. She's very humble. Her team is very humble, but they get it done. We currently have 12,000 meals that were prepared. As when you drive into our facility, we have signs that help families get to the pickup location. If they want to drive here, we also made snacks and meals available at the school sites, so that even if the students were not in school, they still were able to have a meal or a box of meals. If you could scroll down, please. We sent out the word of the box meals to our families, so IT is always involved each and every day with messaging COVID-related things. We thank them for that. And if we could continue to scroll down. So now we are looking at a distribution of N95 masks. And again, our staff that were interested, and this includes all staff, but they get to opt in if they want to. HSD staff and HPS staff, they each got 5 N95 masks. So we distributed, 3,700 masks. We've sent messages. Again, we've distributed more meals. We've covered office staff. Assistant Superintendent Kip Ward, his team has been phenomenal. Their work is essential here, but they have spent days at the sites, all of them, just covering and helping with independent study contracts. They have been pulling together to support their counterparts at the schools. So we're thankful for them. A lot of good things happening. Also this week, we're very excited. This is an opt-in and a voluntary. We have distributed KN95 masks. I believe the total count is 12,000 to the school sites.
Wow.
So each student can get a pack of 5. And again, it's opt-in if they would want to use the KN95 masks. We've sent the message out to families, and we're really excited about the fact that we're able to provide this PPE to students. So we've been busy. I know that the list will continue to grow, but we want to be as proactive as we can in regards to COVID. If we can go.
I think what I like is that, I mean, we're not forcing masks on anybody. I think the opportunity that a family has to give their child whatever they're comfortable with, to come to school in, and I think says a lot as well for our district to give them the extra protection, so if they choose, but also the flexibility to decide what they want to send their child.
Absolutely. So we looked specifically at that J13 option. So as an update, the J13 is still not an option for us because we have not exhausted all staffing. We were able to hire more, and we, on a daily, have our HR staff calling. We have applications that are being processed in regards to substitutes that are coming to us and are interested. So our substitute rank is growing.
What would that threshold look like?
The threshold?
Yes.
Okay, good question. So the threshold would have to be that we would have to have a documented approach that there is nobody truly left in our district that could support our sites, and that we still have coverage needs at the sites. But then our county superintendent would have to also state that the county's staff have been exhausted to support us in our efforts to cover the sites.
Does that have to be for like a week? Is it a day? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So is it a length of time as well? Because I saw there was one day that we had 20 classrooms that were not covered. So that's why I'm trying to figure out what does that threshold.
So it would
really
have
look
to
like?
be for a time period.
Okay.
To where we would have to demonstrate. But with those 20, we still have classrooms operating, we still have school sites operating in the sense of our staff, as tired and frayed as they are, still cover other classrooms during their prep. They still have the energy or the ability to take, for example, if President Torres de Luna and I taught next door to each other and I was absent, my class might get split up between this teacher and the next teacher. So it's not ideal, but the operation of functioning as school is still happening. Trustee Grist?
When hopefully this surge calms down, and we have this now big sub-pool, and the state has allowed us to use these subs till the end of the school year. Will there be a way that possibly we could then release teachers to correct these independent contracts, and we can get help some of our classified staff, get some help in reporting them and that kind of stuff? Do you see that in the future, that, you know, once this surge ends, that we can use this sub-pool to help teachers and classified get what they have to do to get this caught up so we can get our ADA?
Absolutely, and that was, you're ahead of me, you're in advance.
Oh, sorry.
You're advanced. So I'm gonna go.
I'm always thinking about the money.
This is where Trustee Grist's question comes up. So we have had an increase, we're in the thousands now of IS contracts that are being produced. are out in circulation, are out in the hands of our families, or are waiting to be picked up, or that have been returned. So this is where Trustee Grist's idea would fall in. We have current sites and principals that have graciously canceled their staff meetings to allow for staff to use that time. We have staff that are going from the district office to go help support the office staff in regards to helping with the independent study process. But in addition, I agree, when the wave goes, is flattened of our absences, I think that our substitute rank is strong enough to allow for us to have built-in either release time or any type of assistance to help with the IS contracts.
The other thing with the IS contracts is there a possibility that sometimes students, when they're at home, they become frustrated because they don't understand what they're supposed to do. So they might not do the work. Is there a way that when they come back, that there's a way to make up these because they didn't understand what they were supposed to do? Is that, can that happen because we have extra staff that can help them?
Potentially. One thing that I would like to mention is that our independent study contracts, and this is legal guidance, is that the independent study contract is graded based on the attempt of the work, not the accuracy of the work.
Right.
So it is to reflect that a child attempted right now, and that's part of the impact of an increase of the IS contracts district-wide, is that and this I can see as an issue as a teacher, you have your pacing guide, you have your lessons that you're planning, but if half of your class is gone, do you move forward? Or do you review, or what do you do? That is the struggle. So I do foresee that.
But the other issue is that children, when they get frustrated, they give up.
Right.
And they don't, because they don't even know where to start.
Right.
So this idea, this is where Sacramento gets in and says attempt, and
Right.
they can never work with a child who doesn't even know where to begin.
Right. I think that our teachers know where and how and when to help their students.
They're gonna need some help though, that's all.
Absolutely. We are mindful of that.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that we'll be able to do that.
Is there a time limit for the correction of independent study packets?
So we would need to, or right now, based on the current school year's guidelines, an independent study contract needs to be returned and signed by the parent or the guardian within 30 days.
But
How about
I'm talking about completing the work.
How about the correction for the teachers to correct the independent study packets and credit them? Is there, do they have till the end of the year?
So within those 30 days, the whole process has to be completed.
Oh.
Including the corrections.
Everything.
Wow.
Well, then it's
30
good that
days.
it's just an effort.
Yeah.
So, and that's where the problem or the challenge, the area for opportunity for growth is magnified. So if there's a teacher that has 30 students and 10 of them go out on independent study contract today, maybe 5 of them go out in the following week, or so on. You have a revolving door of students coming in and out of the classroom. So we have amazing teachers, and we have experienced teachers and new teachers that are figuring it out as they go. Where do I stop? And where do I start? Where do I review? That's part of, I think, one of the hardest things right now. It's not a fluid approach to teaching this school year, not at all. One thing that I do want to mention publicly is that from the beginning of this school year, I've been very clear, and I want to say it again to our administrators, to our school community, or anyone who has asked me, this is a year of healing for our students. This is a year of healing for our staff. I do know that the state of California does expect us as a district to administer state tests in the spring. I would not hold my breath or count on extremely high academic scores. There might be some, and I believe in academic rigor, but this is the year where students need to take a breath. Adults, we need to take a breath, and we need to be, have wellness, mental wellness in mind, and know that if our students need an extra 5 minutes for recess time, if they need to review another 3 times the same concept, it's okay. Because if we push on them, they're already fragile. They're already struggling with a lot of things. I'm talking about our students and our adults. The system is frayed, and we just need to do the best that we can to move forward to the best of our ability without harming anybody.
So, since
Are we just checking? I thought we were waiting for.
oh, yes, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna move forward. Revising the academic calendar was an option that we did not utilize or discuss, to implement. Allowing for minimal operations to take place at the district office. So all of these departments, IT, facilities and maintenance, special education, business, student services, ed services, student nutrition, the assistant superintendent, the superintendent, and more have all supported the sites. And we have hired 22 subs from the 10th to the date that I produced this update, while we now have the relaxed substitute requirements in place. We have offered our sites to local agencies in regards to COVID testing and COVID vaccination. We really would like to partner with an agency, with somebody that could do some type of community event, whether on the weekend or in the evening. We are being mindful of not impacting our staff. So if there's any agency out there that would like to use our facility, we're open to that. We have distributed the rapid tests, and they are in the hands of our sites. And so these are the next steps for staffing, families, and students. And they're just divided into the various different categories. I do want to just focus on students because that's what we're here for. So the next steps are that we're going to continue to provide a safe learning environment for all students. We're going to continue to provide social emotional supports for all students, in person and virtual if they are in quarantine. We are going to allow our schools to take an approach of keeping the whole child in mind. That's what I was just talking about a little while ago. We're going to continue to provide nutritious meals and snacks for all of our students, and we're going to continue to provide structured classroom time. It has to be a balance. It has to be a balance of structure, but also that flexibility that they need to thrive this year. And so each column has the specific steps for families, and then the first one is for staffing. And I just want to thank everybody. Again, I'm very thankful for the support that our school district does receive, and I do want to repeat my challenge. If anybody in the community wants to take me up on that challenge, spread some kindness to our staff and grace, because we're doing the very best that we can, and kindness is free, so please spread it. And if the board has any questions? Trustee Martinez?
Thank you. So for me, going back to the independent study.
Yes.
And the impact of that, I think that's kind of like the hot topic for folks right now. So in looking at, and even for ourselves as a district, in our ADA and the impact that we'll have. Because if we don't set this as a priority and look at what we need to put in place, or people we need to put in place to ensure that these documents get signed and reviewed in that window of time, either designating someone at each site to ensure that's like their main focus, because I think we definitely have to set that as a sure that we don't lose out on that important ADA, because that is an opportunity that we're being given, you know, to provide that open door for our families and our students to have, you know, to recuperate. So I definitely want to make sure, because I know independent study can be a nightmare. There's times that, you know, kids leave and come back and they haven't done anything. So it's always a challenge, but again, we want to make sure that we are supporting one another and getting ourselves through this next, you know, through this struggle.
I don't have any questions, but I do know that our staff is just doing an amazing job hanging in there. And I just am so thankful for everyone that they are putting forth the extra effort.
No additional comments? I think I have a couple of questions from, because this is a report from our special board meeting that we had 2 weeks ago. And so I'm curious, I didn't see anything, I know we talked about a survey that was supposed to happen. So I didn't see anything, in this report. Okay. And then, you know, thinking about, you know, we were talking about the independent study contract, and it is, I think we should be honest, right, related to money. And, you know, we are gonna have more conversations about our budget and making sure that that gets completed, but I think making sure that the community, and community being parents, understand the importance of completing those. Because maybe they don't know, oh, it's a packet, right? Like the first packet we did when the pandemic hit. I don't think it was connected to so much to the ADA. But this time it is. So maybe that's something that the community needs to know, especially when looking at potential budgetary reductions. Because if the community is concerned about layoffs, this is how we can help the district make sure that there's money coming back, right? So I don't know how.
Yeah, I think we need to let the public know.
Right, so I don't know what that would, like, I would think that, you know, I would leave that in Superintendent Sanchez's hand of how to communicate that. And then the other, piece that came to mind is, and I really appreciate, you know, the grace and kindness. And I also think it's after, when the cases go down, it's an important time to reflect and learn from, you know, because unfortunately, you know, we're hearing this was gonna happen again. You know, hopefully not, but if it does, let's be prepared. And what does that mean, right? What are the learning lessons from our side? What are the learning lessons from parents and staff? And I heard loud and clear, and we've been hearing, right, and some of us keep saying it, the parent input, the confusion, you know, and everything happens so fast. There is no shame and blame. This just, I think Anita said it, it was a tsunami tidal wave. But what are the learning lessons? And, you know, an idea that has been brought up is maybe like a town hall, once everything's done, you know, once, you know, down the road, and just kind of learning.
Also, I would suggest that we get staff input if we're gonna look, you know, see what would have worked for them better, or if they have any great ideas about how we could do things better if we get another way, so.
So,
Trustee Pierce?
yeah, I think that we have to bring Sacramento into this, because this idea of these independent contracts, it's too cumbersome, it's too lengthy, and for us to be being held, it's not like they're going to Disneyland. I mean, and some of these kids are sick, right? So you're asking them, Sacramento has to rethink what they're doing here, and we need to put some pressure on them. We need parents to write to them, and, you know, when we get these surges like this, and I have to agree that I don't think this thing's gonna go away, and we're gonna get other surges, we need help from our legislators. I mean, they can't be putting these things down on us in regards to how we're gonna get hit with ADA. And I just think this whole thing with these independent contracts is not healthy for anybody, not healthy for the children that are sick, that are home, not healthy for our staff. It's creating cumbersome amounts of work. And then I always say, because, you know, I was never very good in math. And so if these things are coming home and I have to do math, I mean, I'd be throwing up my hands. And that's the kind of a student I was. And so you're saying, well, attempt. What am I gonna do, put my name on the paper? Is that what you want me to say? And then, I don't get it?
Well, that is.
What does that mean?
And to add to, if it's okay, I think that it's important for us to explain what does it mean to attempt.
Yeah.
Right, because for a
I mean,
parent.
what does that mean?
What
If you attempt.
Is it, you know, trying to do, I don't know, I think that would be good for parents to know.
But I think it's who is gonna be burdened with that process of explaining, because, I mean, as if it's teachers doing it or giving them, you know, who is it put on to do this process?
Well,
because
and then plus, I didn't learn it. So if I'm doing this math and I don't get it, then I go back to school and I never, you know. So I haven't learned the concept.
the teacher would be getting the packet back.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is that here, as Erica was trying to say, that kids that were, you know, 5 days this way, 5 days that way, you know, and it's a nightmare for the teacher.
I can't imagine. Any other questions or comments on this piece?
Very well done.
Yeah, and I don't think we say it enough, but also thank you all.
Yes.
That were here at this office, who went out there, you know, knowing that, so you guys too, you know, we don't say it enough. All right, moving on to 12C, discussion of certificated and classified layoff procedures.
Okay, so this is a discussion item, not an action item. I want to be just very clear about that, and I put that at the bottom. The document presentation is at the board's request, you know, for information. This presentation does not initiate a layoff process. This school year, 21-22, we have not initiated a layoff process. We have talked about reductions, but we have not initiated a layoff process. So with that, we're going to move forward. Our school district has over 600 employees, and our staff is comprised of classified staff, certificated staff, which are the staff that have credentials or permits to either be in a classroom or provide a service. We also have unrepresented staff, and they're called unrepresented staff because they do not belong to a union. That group is made up of administrators and confidential staff. Those are the three kinds of staff we have in our district. Our classified staff can only be laid off due to a lack of work or a lack of funds. So classified staff include, but it's not the entire comprehensive list, could include, you know, custodians, could include secretaries, could include instructional assistants, paraprofessionals. Non-certificated staff fall into this category. For the classified staff, we have a new assembly bill that became effective January 1st, 2022. And it has drastically changed the classified layoff process, and it has brought it, the changes are now reflecting a process that is closer aligned to the certificated layoff process. So this would, if we, as a board, select to have a reduction of classified staff, we would be operating under the new process. So if we were to talk about moving forward with a classified layoff process, We would need to provide notice by March 15th that the school district intends to recommend a permanent classified employee to be laid off, and we would need to state the reasons. Again, the reasons would be either lack of work or lack of funds. As we've been talking this night about a lot of work, I would say that it would not be due to a lack of work, but rather the lack of funds. The notice of the termination to employees to be laid off must be provided by before May 15th. That's the actual notice. Between March 15th and May 15th, the whole process would take place. We would have discussions in open session as a board team. We would go and also meet with our classified union, we would meet with our staff, and so on. The only exception to this rule would be if somebody is funded out of a specially funded program, then that would allow the district to provide a 60-day notice and not necessarily fall by the March 15th deadline. Our classified staff would be definitely and legally, we would have to provide the notice and the opportunity to a hearing, just like our certificated staff. We would have to coordinate with an administrative law judge to make the determination whether or not there's enough cause for the district to trigger the layoff. The ALJ would need to make the decision to the board or provide that decision to the board and the employee before May 7th. And then there are some exceptions to the date, and that would be determined by the administrative law judge, the ALJ. The final notice would be provided to the staff member by May 14th. So if anybody in this room or anybody listening has been part of a layoff, I've been laid off from the district. The judge comes, the district coordinates it, the district pays for that process. The same thing would happen here. This is at the expense of the district. And it is not a fun process, but one that is now legally required.
So this is new for.
This is new.
We asked, how much approximately does that cost?
It would depend on the number of days. I don't know what their per diem rate is. I would imagine because it is an administrative law judge, it would be expensive. I just don't know. Knowing that every district in California is operating under the same calendar deadlines, the calendar for an ALJ would, I would assume, would be very tight and therefore be expensive because there's
High demand.
high demand. Yes. Other things that we would need to consider during the layoff process is that, again, the board would have to discuss the situation publicly. We also would be working with bumping rights. If anybody is familiar with classified staff layoffs, if I, as a classified employee, held another position that I potentially could bump into, that she's currently in, I might bump her out, depending on my date of hire. So it's not necessarily that I would be impacted directly, but I might impact somebody else. That is the nature of bumping. Seniority, yes. So then we would also have to negotiate the impacts of the layoff, because the work is not diminishing, it's the work staff that is diminishing. So what are we gonna do with that work? That is to be negotiated with our classified bargaining group. What happens to that work? We also have to look at updating our seniority list, which we've already started the process.
That's what I was gonna ask.
We have data that we share with staff so that they can confirm their seniority. It was about a year ago, the HR team worked on a very in-depth look at our seniority list that included providing every staff member with their own data and a certain number of days to dispute it or agree with it and get back to us. So I am confident that the baseline data is very strong and as clean as it's going to be because that was the first time we ever employed that process. Now we just have to build from there.
Right. So the seniority list, I'm assuming we would need to have it now because since the March 15th deadline is in place, we would have to have some solid agreement from, both certificated and classified on the seniority list so that it's accurate. So in case this stuff has to happen, they know where they are on that seniority list.
Yes, so one thing that I do want to clarify is that we have not sent out seniority data because I want to be sure that I publicly talked about this and said, this presentation does not trigger the layoff, but also the seniority list does not trigger the layoff. Oftentimes when we talk about seniority lists, our staff just automatically assumes we're going to go into layoff mode. I do just want to be very clear, and now that I've said it, we can publicly say we will be sending the data out in the near future.
I would like to say that because we're having this discussion, doesn't mean that we are triggering a layoff either.
Right.
Well, that's what you
That's
said.
what-
Yeah, but I know,
But that's good, let's repeat it.
Yeah,
because-
because
Yeah. No, you're right.
somehow people think that we've laid off, and we haven't laid off anybody.
Right. So the last thing that, and these are just the big factors that I'm talking about, are, well, there's two more things. The budget, of course, we would have to take a look at if there is a need due to deficit spending to lay any classified staff members out. The last thing with an asterisk there is not a technical thing, but one that I always talk about when we talk about layoffs. It is not the process that is really remembered. I don't remember talking to an ALJ, but I remember the compassion that was demonstrated to me. I remember the fact that I was treated with dignity. It's the process, it's how we treat staff during this very emotional time. Nobody's here as a hobby, probably. Everybody's here for their livelihood. So it's very key, and it's something that I've shared with the current HR team, and that they're very good and passionate about as well. It's how we treat the employee during this very difficult time. So I'm going to move on to certificated unless we have questions about classified. All right. So our certificated staff, again, this expense would be paid for on behalf of the district, the expense for the ALJ, the expense for the hearing. Any permanent or probationary staff can be laid off if the school board determines that economic circumstances require decreasing the number of employees, permanent employees, or probationary, could be the case. We would pick particular kinds of services, and that would be a public identification. So for example, if we, and I don't even want to say something because it might trigger some sort of reaction, but this is an example. If I say that we need to lay off school psychologists, then that is a particular kind of service. If I say we need to lay off elementary teachers, multiple subject teachers, that is a kind of service. If I say we need to lay off teachers with a single subject credential in science, that is a kind of service. So the board would make that kind of determination.
So
Yes.
it states permanent and probationary.
Yes.
So, but I thought non-tenured teachers could still be let go
Yes.
without having to go through this.
Yes.
Okay.
So what it means is, where it says decreasing the number of permanent employees, if I at a school have 20 FTE, those 20 FTE, those 20 full-time equivalent employees are always there. Therefore, the term is loosely stated permanent employees. That's the workforce there. But if in those 20 permanent employees or FTE that are there, those 20 positions, maybe 5 of them are probationary and 15 of them are permanent, it still counts that full workforce force. So, where it says
Say
decrease.
that again.
Okay, so it could be worded different, so it could, be stated as circumstances require decreasing the number of positions. I can say positions,
Okay.
but a position ultimately becomes a permanent employee. I think that's where, I should be clear. So for certificated staff, the identified staff must be personally given or sent by registered mail written notice that they will be laid off by March 15th. That's where the March 15th deadline as historic would come from. The notice will ask staff if they are interested in a hearing. That's important. This is where a staff member opts into a hearing. Staff will have a time window to let the district know that they are interested in participating in the hearing. And they will also receive a reduction in force statement. And this is the district's response to the request for hearing. So when they notify the district that they want a hearing, they will receive something in return called reduction in force statement.
I have a question. So when the hearing is the one with that judge you were talking about earlier, and so what would be the potential outcome of the judge hearing if the district's saying I don't have money for X position? What would that judge, how would they override that?
So, for example, if there is a discrepancy, if, let's just say, 4 of us received layoff notices, but there's an inaccuracy in our hire date, therefore a potential inaccuracy in our seniority date, and maybe you ended up being more senior than Trustee Grist, but she wasn't part of the layoff, it could create an issue for the district that the layoff process is inaccurate, the data is inaccurate, or it could mean that more discussions need to be had because maybe you have a new credential that the district does not know about, and there might be types of criteria that are picked. So for example, if I have a bilingual certification to my credential, a BCLAT, there was a time in the district where no teacher with a BCLAT was part of the layoff, but other teachers were, even if they were more senior. So there could be discrepancies in the data. That's why it's very important. The seniority list is very important to have staff give input to their data and so on.
And I have a follow-up. So why is it not legal for that individual, let's say I got the layoff notice, and I'm like, wait a minute, but I have a X certificate. I couldn't go to HR and fight my case before doing this hearing?
Ideally, that happens way before, and it's consistently happening throughout the year. So for example, in HR, it could be even on a weekly basis, we will have an inquiry. Can I meet with you? Can I email you my new units? Can I send this new degree that I just finished up, a graduate degree or so on? So staff have the ability throughout the year when it is beneficial to them to update their data, but there is a timeline in the certificated contract that calls for by September 10th, a certificated staff member must submit to HR their transcripts for evaluation. So if, yes,
Yeah, they need to understand it's all about pay.
it could potentially lead to an increase in moving a staff member's pay from one column to the next. It doesn't always trigger pay difference, but it does.
But
That's built into the
But if
contract.
it goes into a layoff and then you show that transcript, that could help in the layoff, right?
It could potentially.
Yeah, see, that's why.
But that was my question, like legally, would the individual have to wait for the hearing? No, they could go to, okay, good. I think it's important for,
yes.
Right, but that's why the
Staff that
district
don't
might not know
right.
that you were holding on to this because, you know, you just completed a class.
Right.
So that's
That makes
how-
sense, okay.
It's best to update the.
As soon as you do it.
Yes, absolutely. And keep record of what you submitted. So then, for certificated staff, we also have a notice of participation. This has a timeline, and it's within a timeline that staff need to notify the district that they want to participate in the process of a hearing. The ALJ will preside over the hearing and make the determination over the district's proposed layoff list. That's where I was talking about a discrepancy could potentially come up. The ALJ will give his or her decision to the board and the employees by May 7th. And the board will have until May 15th to review the ALJ's decision and issues its decision on the final layoff notices to the employee. And again, this has to be by personal delivery or registered mail.
A question about this ALJ judge. So let's say you lay off, your scenario, 4 of us here, but, and only 2 of us want a hearing, then that's all they're gonna look at, not the whole entire list, right?
So by sheer virtue of the fact that it's a list, everybody gets looked at. But if somebody does not opt into the hearings usually happen in this room, and everybody that participates is in the audience. And so if there's somebody that says like, forget it, I don't want to participate, or whatever the reason is, then they just don't come on that day, but their data still is looked at because somehow or another it's going to impact their colleagues. Moving on, again, we have considerations. In order for the layoff to take place, the board has to publicly decide to have a layoff. And that's the only way the process can begin. We also look at skipping or bumping criteria. My example was the B-clad. It could be whatever is needed at that time that we determine as a district. Maybe we only need to keep math teachers with a math credential, or whatever the case is. We would need to negotiate any impacts that are triggered by the layoff. We would need to also be working, and now's the time, on the seniority list. We also have to take the budget into consideration. Our budget is comprised of a large portion of staffing costs, and that's something that is definitely an item that we need to look at. And again, the compassion, the human dignity that is had during these times, the interaction with staff that are impacted, very, very important. And if we have any questions, okay, let's start. Trustee Gibbs?
No, I don't have any questions. I just want us to be, we have lost in the past some really exceptional teachers because we laid off, and then we were able, I guess the district was too cautious. We laid off, and then we could hire back, but they found other jobs. And we lost incredible teachers. And that's one of the biggest things that we need to really, think about. Is this really what we want to do? Because you're exposing yourselves, and now that we have to do this with our classified, is this really what we want to do? Because we have potential of, losing great employees. And so that's something that has to be thought about. We'll see where we're at.
Trustee Martinez?
I think I just needed some clarification on the specially funded programs, what would fall under that category? And that timeline there, since there's an exemption there, I think I just would want to know specifically who would fall under that specific category, what programs or staff. And then the other thing, because this is new for classified, I think really understanding what the implementation is for this district for classified, really explaining that to them and or presenting that maybe at a chapter meeting, I think is really important, because having that ability to explain and have that partnership with our labor partners with CSEA, because this is something that's tasked for the district to do, So, but breaking it down for our classified, since it's brand new for them, and explaining to them what their rights are, would show immense gratitude. For me, being, in CSEA, having the district show me that compassion and understanding to explain this is how the new law is coming into place and how we're gonna implement it here, if we needed to, but I think that would go a long way with our CSEA partners. And I think that's it for me.
I feel, I personally have been through a reduction and a layoff, and it's a really difficult time for all staff. The human resources here were very compassionate, and it's a difficult time for everyone. I just hope that, we all think about everything that we do, and, we'll just have to see how it goes.
Mark?
Compassion was the word that came to mind every time. It's never easy to make fiscal decisions that impact real people. And that's not to say, we know yet anything, but I'm very conscious of that. I take it very seriously. And I know that for myself, I would want to do a lot of due diligence to make sure that there was not another way to capture that money in some way if it comes down to budgetary. So that's all I have to say on that.
I think that, so with the March 15th deadline, which is very soon, then I'm assuming that by the next board meeting, we would have to actually say this is initiating, and if that's the direction that the district decided to or needed to go, it would need to happen at the next board meeting.
The next board meeting would be essential for those kinds of conversations.
Okay, and then I think for myself, I think it's difficult. When we're talking about the subs and all the money for the subs, I'm in my head trying to understand what the rationale, how we would rationalize. I'm gonna lay you off, and I'm gonna hire 20 of them, and I understand permanent employees cost more money. I understand that. But I think you have to weigh, kind of what Trustee Briss was saying, you're weighing your experience, people going out the door and bringing in. It's hard for me to understand, and so I think, once and we're not saying we're laying off yet, right? But I know that we talked about that the LCAP had, and this is where the conversations, right? We've said it publicly. The LCAP didn't have our some PE teachers. And I know that that's not a done deal, but, and so I don't want to pretend like nothing's going on, is what I'm saying. I don't want to give, yes, we're not initiating layoffs, but let's be real. There is a concern. And how do we balance that? And also, how do we balance that the reality of our California state economy as well? Yeah, it is a good, robust economy, but yet the Hollister School District is not. So how do we, have, and we've talked about this also openly, the opportunity to meet with our community stakeholders and really be transparent with the budget and really look at that together and say, look, this is what we have. This is where do we go? Right.
Those are good, very good points. I do want to just maybe provide some clarification. So if we laid off staff, we would not hire subs to replace them. That would not fly. It would not be legal. We would have to rehire staff from a layoff list in a particular and specific order.
Can you explain to her what I meant about they get different jobs?
they
So-
move away or
Yeah.
they go to a different district. So
Right.
so for example, if, use us, okay, is that if all 6 of us were laid off, the chances that all 6 of us, even if the district had the opportunity to hire us back, potentially all 6 of us would not come back, because if we all were working for our livelihood, if a district down the street was willing to hire me, I would not gamble on the Hollister School District calling me back. I would take the job that allows for me to provide a
That's what I
secure
meant.
income for my family. You might want to wait, but maybe everybody else cannot wait, and so on. So it depends on the person's
That's how we
ability
lose
to
good
wait.
teachers.
But that was the pattern when I came on the board.
Yeah.
That was
That's what we were
the
doing.
pattern consistently, year after year after year. We would pink slip all the teachers, you being one of them, just to hire them back. We would spend thousands of dollars to go through that process of laying them off, just to rehire them. So to me,
But
that,
we would lose good ones because they would get other jobs.
exactly.
And
So-
it costs the district money.
Again, yes. So at that point, that's, where the board at that moment in time said and told the superintendent, we're not gonna do this anymore. And we do not approve those layoffs for those people anymore. And it stopped.
It definitely does everything that you described, but it, most of all as well, it impacts culture and morale.
Correct.
It creates uncertainty for staff
Yes.
to where March 15th rolls around, staff were just waiting.
Yeah.
Am I gonna get pink slipped or not? It was everyone that had worked here 10 years and under every year, so
Yeah.
it was
Ridiculous.
just over and over. My goal is to not create that kind of culture here.
Well, that's our goal.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other questions? No action is needed on this one, so 12D, discussion and approval of AB 361.
Okay, so this is an item that will be familiar to the board. It is the executive order that, and assembly bill that we discussed in previous board meetings, that allows for the board to adopt a resolution tonight if the board would like to continue, or excuse me, if the board would like to close the next meeting to the public and only offer virtual. If we want to keep the board meeting open, the board does not need to adopt this resolution. And we would then, at the next board meeting, would be open to the public.
You want to go around and talk about how we feel? Trustee Ray.
Did we have a sheriff out here tonight? He was here. And how long did he stay?
Left about 30 minutes.
I definitely don't want to go through what we went through on Tuesday. But tonight was fine. So I guess we should keep it open.
Trustee Martinez?
I think now that we have our protocols in place and having a clear understanding what that would look like, I'm comfortable moving forward with them staying open.
Trustee Tosti?
I would like to keep it open.
Trustee Mark?
I was gonna say the same thing. I think what tonight gave me hope about keeping open meetings. It processed smoothly, there was civility, everybody got their voice, and I spent a lot of time listening hard to what everybody had to say, so I'm encouraged to keep an open meeting for next month.
And just to be clear, I think this is because of COVID cases, right? Not
Yes.
because of other reasons, but, and I'm curious, do we know if the Board of Supervisors had an action on their meeting in regards to meetings being virtual?
I don't know if they had, recent action. I heard, I don't remember if it was earlier this week or late last week, their meeting was closed.
I was curious if they were recommending, because I think they were going to talk about that, but Tuesday was eventful for us, we started to watch other board meetings.
There's been no chatter.
There's been nothing, okay. Okay, well, is there a motion, or no, we don't need a motion if you want to keep it open, correct? Okay. So, all in favor? Oh, we don't, sorry, no action.
Okay.
All right, number 13, then board member report. We'll start with trustee Griff.
I think I had some stuff written down. I don't.
Do you want us to come back? Okay.
Yeah, come back to me.
Okay, trustee Martinez.
I don't have any.
Trustee Tosti.
I had a chance to pop in to see the nurses, visit them, and they looked very tired. They're working very hard. The stacks of papers in their office were so high. I know they're putting everything they have into, helping the students and the parents. And I just encourage them to hang in there. I did pop into Lad Lane and also the same with the office staff. Their health clerk was out. Secretaries were popping in and out, taking care of the students in the health office. The phones are ringing off the hook. The principal's in there answering phone calls. It is amazing how everyone is staying positive. They were thankful for the visit, and they were especially had a positive attitude. I was pleasantly surprised. Very nice to see the positivity.
Trustee Mark.
I have a question, but I don't know if this is the time to bring it up. Have we considered that our next scheduled regular board meeting is the Tuesday of the week that we are out for school? And is that normal?
I think we have had them in the past on that week.
Yeah. Okay.
And then for myself, after we had that special session 2 weeks ago with the COVID cases, I just felt unresolved, like I needed to do something, so I did start calling our Assemblyman, Robert Rivas. I called Senator Ana Caballero, and I called Mr. Jimmy Panetta. And our local board of supervisors, I think I called every single one except for one. And pleading for funding for COVID tests, pleading for an additional COVID site for San Diego County, pleading for reinstating COVID sick pay, which yay, looks like it's gonna happen. And not just one voice, there were many other people calling. There's a lot of advocates out there, but I think that those are those things that we can do, right? That as community, anyone can do that. And so one of the things that in making all those phone calls, we found, I'm hoping, a little potential resource of a COVID testing lab. And so Superintendent Sanchez and I have been talking to them, and obviously we're not taking any action on anything. We're just looking at options and potentially collaborating with whoever the community is willing to collaborate with us on this, right? So the idea, the resource sounds exciting, but we're trying to vet it now and see if it's possible. And this testing would be provided to the entire community, potentially. It would be from any child, any parent, grandparent would test at this site. And so that's, that's the hope. If we can do it, great. If not, we'll keep trying, but, that's something that, I'm really excited about. So, 14, future event, trustee Grace. sorry.
Yeah, well, first off, I met with I'm part of the Library Coalition Committee, and they are feeling good about things happening. They've been getting some grants and trying to get work on someone to help them drawing plans, what a new library would look like. And yeah, they're really moving hard, and hopefully this Board of Supervisors will help them a little bit more on getting things done. Norma, the librarian, I think, she is just incredible. She's done really great work, and so that's a good thing. I also I go to this it's a webinar on once a month, and it's on the No Child Left Behind, but no child left behind. It's on it's called Don't Suspend Me. Did my book come in? Did my book come in yet?
I have not seen it, but I can follow up with it.
Okay. Anyway, so it's their first class was in January, and it's very good. And I did the first semester with them, and it's done through the county office of ed, and they're just really I learned quite a bit. So I've been doing that, and that's once a month. And we had our first intergovernmental committee meeting, and that's been going. They're really trying to work with San Juan and Hollister, and they want to do some things together. They kind of, Mr. Tenenbaum and I, we kind of said, well, let's not forget about the schools. So we'll see how things work. That's what I've been up to.
All right, number 14, future agenda items.
I think we need to keep an eye on the, we got a reprieve on the expansion of the garbage, the whole dumping. And I think that it's not gonna, so we probably need to keep an eye on that. But I don't know if I want to do, I just wanted to throw that out. I think for us is we need to look at when are we gonna set up our, workshops? We gotta get that together, and our governance calendar and that kind of stuff. And I'd like to know about our finances.
Trustee Martinez.
I think I, have the same suggestions. Definitely, me personally, moving forward with any major decisions that are gonna impact our budget positively or negatively. I would like to highly recommend we have a budget breakdown, to know where detailed budget workshop, for layman's people, to really understand where we are now, and be public and be transparent, because if there's gonna be some hard decisions, I want us to all be aware of where we are.
Yep.
And I can't, in good conscience, state that
Trustee Mark?
You stole my ideas.
We'll start with you next time.
Seriously. Yep. Budget. And the governance workshop, governance calendar, even maybe taking a look at our governance handbook and seeing if we can make it more robust.
Yep.
So.
And then I think we were supposed to go over the committees in December. We did not do that at the election, and I thought we were going to do that today, but it didn't land on the agenda, so we need to do that next month.
Right.
And at the committees, just so that we're all aware, there's the intergovernmental.
Right.
Which other ones do we have?
There's
I thought
two
there
or
was
three.
Yeah, there used to be a citizens oversight one, or did that go away? I was just looking back at old stuff.
Yeah.
That's for the bond.
Yeah. And I believe there's like three.
We don't know. Okay, so we'll get those for next month and we'll see which one of us wants to sit on which one.
Could we do that when we have our workshop with Jackie? Is that the appropriate time to do something like that?
I usually do it in public.
Oh, well, would that be public?
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, any announcements, reminders?
I'm looking forward to going to closed session, if we have some people that wanna go home.
All right, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we convene closed session.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And thank you all.